I decided to make this video about the LockTech Kwikset Smartkey decoder, or the LTKSD. I'll be using LockTech's version 2.0 decoder. I think it's an excellent tool, and I find the support from LockTech to be first rate. However, I thought I might be able to fill a gap in the learning curve for those that, like me, are novices at reading the tool. LockTech provides a good instructional videos done by a seasoned user, and I hope the value add of my video will be to accelerate the learning curve for novice users like myself. When I first opened the package and tried to use it, I felt a lot like I was looking at a sonogram or an x-ray with a doctor. As he said, as you can see, when what I see are different colors of gray. So hopefully what you can pick up from this vid are what features to focus on and what features to ignore while attempting to reading the scope. I should mention that I'm reading a lock below generation 5 with the scope, and it reads all depths of locks generations 1 through 4. If you have a generation 5 lock, you'll want to supplement this vid by watching LockTech's vid about how to use their accessory tool for depths 1 through 3 on generation 5 locks. I can put a link in the comments section below to those vids. Since I'm at home for this demo, I'm using my iPhone 13 connected to Wi-Fi together with the MaxView app as recommended by LockTech. So you can see the MaxView app there. As I turn this on, I'm going to pair with that. So if I go to my Wi-Fi and find the MaxView, okay, and I'm paired with the MaxViewer. So now with that set, I can go back up, open the MaxView, okay, and it says that I'm connected. And I can see that what you're seeing on the screen right there is the view through the scope. As I insert the scope into the lock, and I preset this lock to a depth 4. I preset the lock to a depth 4 using space and depth keys. So I reset it, from my home lock to a depth 4 space and depth key. The reason I did that was so that I could get each depth separately instead of having to go to several locks and that happen to have the depths, each of the depths represented by the lock. I instead changed up the lock to match each of the individual depths. So swallowing my pride here are the things that I didn't grasp when I inserted the scope into my Smartkey lock at home and tried to read the different wafer depths. So the first thing that you notice here, when you're looking at this versus the card that they supply, it looks a little bit different here. The first thing that I learned after making connection to the app view, the MaxView app, is you've got to hit this landscape mode and change it over to landscape mode. Now it starts to look a lot more like the video, the pictures that appear on the supplied card that comes with the scope. The other thing is that I preset this lock to a depth 4 because it is where you can see all of the features that I talk about that I think are pertinent to it. The first thing that I would note is that you see on the screen, if I use the key as a pointer, there's a right and left half. This right half, you see this kind of line separating the two. Everything to the right of that line, to this bar here, to the right, you can just ignore that. That's just noise. Everything up above here, you can ignore that. it's also noise. Those are features you don't need to pay any attention to. So there are three basic features that I think are relevant to trying to read these different images. The first is what I would refer to as the flat, this area right here, which has a quite prominent silver bluish vertical bar shape that changes in length and location through the respective depths. The second is what I think of as a concave hollow, this little black space here on this particular depth. It's dark in appearance and sometimes matches the color of irrelevant portions of the images, but becomes more unique feature at depths like 5 and 6, and you'll see that when I scroll through the images. The third feature is hardly distinguishable. It's a very faint horizontal line right here, right above the key. While it's towards the lower half of the image, there's plenty of screenshot real estate below this feature. While it can be seen in each of the images, it really only plays a role in distinguishing depth 3 from depth 4. For the rest of the video, what I'm going to do is I made screenshots rather, for succinctness. I'm not going to reset the lock for each depth. I've already done that, and I made screenshots of what the video image looks like, or what the scope image looks like. What the scope image looks like for each of the depths. So I reset the lock in between each of these images. These are all taken in landscape view. And I'll point out what are the features that you notice at each depth. So at depth 1, the flat, okay, appears to be about the same length, perhaps a bit shorter than the concave hollow, with the flat below the concave hollow. So this being the concave hollow, okay? Or perhaps you'll see that as two concave hollows. Note the kind of faint line below the flat, okay? That, I refer to that little section there, that little faint line, as the bottom. In other words, the bottom of the relevant area for reading. And again, that's really comes into play when trying to distinguish between depths 3 and 4. As I scroll through my images, this is an image of depth 2. You see that the flat is significantly larger, almost twice as long as depth 1, and there's a single concave above it. Again, the faint line appears at the bottom of the flat. This is again depth 2. If I move to depth 3, it appears like in the relevant, in the readable portion of the scope, the flat takes up the entire area and there is no concave section apparent. There is the faint line that I refer to as the bottom of the readable area. If I move on to depth 4, in depth 4, you see the flat here at the top, and it would be easy to confuse with depth 3, except for the fact that that faint line appears right here, giving what I call the concave area in between that faint line and the flat. Let me scroll back and forth between 3 and 4 so that you can see those differences. There's depth 3 with the faint line and the flat taking up all the space down to the faint line, and depth 4 with the flat, the little concave section in between the flat and the faint line at the very bottom. If I move on to depth 5, you see why I call it a concave area in that black section, and the flat and the concave section are about equal in height, and then the faint line defining the bottom of the readable area. So about this, when they appear both about the same in height, the flat and the concave section, you're at a depth 5. And then finally, when you move to a depth 6, you see a flat at the very top and a flat at the very bottom, separated by a concave section, and the flat, the faint line appearing below the bottom again. Hopefully, that helps you in reading the scope. I appreciate your comments to the video, and Let me know if it's been helpful for you, or if you have other things to contribute to the discussion. Thanks. Bye.